It's the Subway NFL postgame show on CBSSports.com, and the Giants, again, at home against the Vikings, fall victim to the interception. 4 picks by Minnesota, 3 of them taken back for touchdowns, and the Vikings go into the Meadowlands, and it's much worse than the score actually was, but 41-17, the final. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz, NFL.com's Pat Kerwin. Glad to be with you here on CBSSports.com, and really only one big story after this game, and that is the poor performance by Eli Manning.
Yeah, it was a very poor performance by Eli with the interceptions, 3 of them back for touchdowns. But when you look at the game closely, and I think the film will bear this out when they start studying it, he deserves a lot of the blame. He doesn't deserve all the blame. There were drop balls. There were wrong routes. There were miscommunications. I think the Giants' offense really is in disarray right now. They've got to get it all back together in time to stay in this playoff race. But there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of problems to solve.
You know, on the other side of the ball, Minnesota got a much-needed victory here with the fact that now they're 5-6 after beating Oakland last week, now 2 in a row. Tavares Jackson is looking pretty good in what he's doing right now, escaping the pocket. They only had 251 yards of offense, but he didn't make any mistakes.
No, this is what Brad Childress talked about in September, about I'm going to let this kid play through the bumps and the bruises and the learning curve and the mistakes, etc. And so what are we seeing right now? He's still not really capable of winning a game. Little credit to the Giant defense. With all the mishaps on offense, you still have a defense that had 4 sacks, that held them to 3.3 a carry rushing. And we know they're one of the best running teams in the NFL, and really harnessed Tavares. But Tavares did a couple of things that are impressive. Coach Childress told us, and we told you this on Thursday, look for the deep ball, look for it early, try to loosen things up. They come right out, throw a deep ball for a touchdown. Yep. Beautiful pass, 60 yards. And so that's the kind of passing attack this kid can handle right now. Then in the third quarter, to Jason's point, the guy comes out and makes some plays with his feet to move the chains. And I think he had his longest run of his career already, about 19, 20 yards.
And it was an important point of the game. The other aspect here is now that Minnesota at 5-6, they still get some games against teams that they're going to be fighting for those wild card positions, including Detroit next week at the Metrodome. New York, on the other hand, goes to Chicago next week. Where do the Giants go from here? Because you know, in New York, they're going to be hearing, oh, no, here we go again, another second-half collapse.
Well, you know, they went to Detroit last week and won, and that stopped it for a week. Now we got a full bloom here, and everybody will be saying that the Giants are going to fall apart. They have shown some resiliency in the past. The quarterback has bounced back from bad performances and had good performances, so I expect him
to... He did it last week.
Right, and I expect him to right the ship when they get to Chicago and try to balance this up. But this loss could come back to haunt them in tiebreaker situations.
Yep. Yeah, certainly can. And so, you know, the Lions have had those. The Giants, with the Redskins lost today, that one as well. But this is a bad loss.
Yeah,
they didn't show
no,
up
it was terrible. But as I said, the defense should be proud of their performance considering the situation, and they held them at 250 yards. One thing, I talked to Coach Childress last night. He said, look, if I had to, Adrian Peterson could have played today, but on the side of caution, they decided to hold him one more week. He said he's ready to go. So Adrian Peterson will be back on the field next week, and you got a lot of emotional lift from today's game. So the Vikings could be in trouble for people down the stretch.
And that against the Detroit Lions team next week, again, at home. For more on this game or any other in Week 12, be sure to stay with CBSSports.com and watch everything else on the CBS Audience Network. For Pat Kerwin, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care.